Hey, it's Robin. Just before we start, this video is a bit different from our usual ones. It's probably not suitable for younger viewers, so bear that in mind before you set off in this journey into the weird, wild, and frankly odd world of loot. Enjoy. Every day, every block, new Ethereum coins are produced. There is no theoretical maximum to the number that can be produced, at least not at the moment. 117,437,242 of them at the time of writing this script. If you're a Bitcoin maxi, this is probably your most dependable stick for beating on ETH devotees.
What you gonna do, bitch?
Inflation. But September 3rd, ETH went and forked Bitcoin's most memeable idea. It deflated. Under the EIP 1559 update, base fees are burnt. For the first time, the burn outstripped the issuance. It was brief, but it was real. It happened. Ultrasound money. Yo! But why? What drove this massive consumption of base fees? NFTs, that's what. $3 billion in NFT sales on OpenSea alone in August. JPEGs, hundreds of thousands of them pouring into the market, jet fueled by hype messiahs, oversubscribed Discord channels, and alpha traders with MEV smarts and a swag bag of Eden. We have hit peak NFT. We're cruising down the other side. Barely a soul has any clue what they're buying, why they're buying it. It's just important that they expose their eyeballs to as many pixels as they possibly can. Eyeballs meet art, digital art, the new art renaissance. Consume it, feast on it. I want it all. Gimme, 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 gimme the pixels, skinny ones, fat ones, generative ones, hand-blown ones. I want all your pixels. I must have pixels. A global, hypercolor, post-rational, post-national, post-punk, post-ape, NFT, OpenSea orgy! Mate, you okay?
Hoffman speaks to you, his chosen ones. Words are good. Go forth and aid.
I used to worry there was too much beauty in the world, too many NFTs, too many choices. But now I would give anything just for a glimpse of artistry, an outline or even a sketch, anything beyond words. In the greatest stories of old, a hero emerges in mankind's hour of greatest need. Nobody knows where he came from, but when the NFT blindness struck, who could have known that the only one left untouched would be the one with a mind so uncultured, so deficient in aesthetic appreciation, he would buy anything. Before he may have had another name, but from this point on, we knew him only as Donkey.
Don't let high gas costs keep you out of Ethereum. A Balancer, the gas-optimized vault architecture, makes trading cheaper than anywhere else. Liquidity providers can optimize their fee earnings using the dynamic fee system that automatically adjusts to market conditions. You can also use asset managers to lend out idle assets, dramatically increasing your capital efficiency. And because Balancer is an open platform for flexible automated markets, you can choose from stable pools or weighted pools, and in the future more designs will be created that they don't even know about yet. Check it out at balancer.fi. Aave, or is it Aave? I think it's Aave. Fun fact, that name is taken from the Finnish word for ghost, but there's nothing mysterious and weird about Aave. It is in fact a decentralized open source and non-custodial liquidity protocol on Ethereum. Depositors earn interest by providing liquidity to lending pools, while borrowers can obtain loans by tapping into these pools with variable and stable interest rate options. Deposit in Aave protocol and receive A tokens, which accrue interest every second right in your wallet. Seriously, you can watch your balance just going every second. Swap any of your deposited assets at any time to get the best yields on the market. And for the devs out there, Aave features access to DeFi building blocks like flashstones and credit delegation. Aave protocol liquidity pools are now available on Ethereum and the sidechain Polygon.
Hoffman speaks to you. Words are good. Find the tower and mint.
Hoffman. Who is Hoffman? Hoffman is Dom Hoffman, D-Hoff, not David Hasselhoff, but the founder of Vine, which has nothing to do with blockchain and no longer exists. But for a moment, it was a thing people paid attention to and many launched careers from. Like this guy.
Invisibility.
Or this guy. Dom began teaching himself Solidity back in December and proceeded to launch a community-created fantasy universe called Blitmap. Working with 16 other artists, Hoffman created 132 by 32 pixel images combining elements of science fiction and fantasy. Those were then remixed into 1,600 siblings. The idea was to use the Blitmaps as the basis for a kind of blockchain version of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, turning characters into merchandise and games. Now, Dom was also a founder, or nounder, of the Nouns, a PFP project which mints a single randomly generated NFT on-chain on Ethereum and then puts it up for auction to the highest bidder. And they pay big. These are highly sought after. But on the 27th of August, Dom released a message that would change the face of NFTs
Forever. Hoffman speaks to you. Find the tower. Grab the hammer. Make the words. Mint them. Buckled helm of Velo. Studded club of wow.
Yes, Dom's great innovation, his masterpiece, was a black square with some white text on it.
It's only worth.
Nobody could understand what the F was going on when they saw these, least of all me. Now, since punks and apes, NFT collectibles have been kind of relentlessly evolving into ever more sophisticated, complex iterations involving farming, breeding, native tokens, and even AI. And yet, here we are, faced with overwhelming simplicity, all artifice stripped away, the very antithesis. And the whole of Twitter collectively lost their pretty little heads. Watching this from the sidelines, you'd be forgiven for thinking that we'd witnessed the second coming of Christ. This, finally, is the metaverse we have all been waiting for at long last. Literally everybody had an opinion. Loot has never been done before. It's a paradigm shift. And you know, apes, they love a paradigm shift. But what is this paradigm shift? Well, at its most basic, it's really just about ownership. One of the least appreciated parts of the Bored Ape story is how that community took the ball, ran with it, and really made it their own. Any new PFP community launching now is handicapped by the expectations both punks and apes have created to get such a community together. And they don't want to do the work. They expect teams and devs to do it for them. But Loot flips the script. It prioritizes the community building aspect and strips everything else away. What made Bored Apes great is the only thing that can make Loot great. Its success or its failure is entirely community owned. There's been endless discussion about the IP rights of punks and apes, and there will inevitably be many moments where lawyers will be forced to tussle over usage rights. Loot will encounter no such headwinds. Ever. They are simply not an issue. So this then begs the question, how on earth do you place a value on such a thing? Because clearly a black square with some text on it isn't at all where the value resides, and yet it's the entry point, it's the passport, it's the headline, it's the badge of honor for the people who make this happen. Now look, it's worth remembering here that these could only be minted for free, directly from the contract. They cost nothing. Does that remind you of something? Yes. That's what's going on here. It has that same feeling. A crypto-native, crypto-specific idea that is rapidly adopted by the hardcore of the hardcore. And if the hardcore of the hardcore are into it, then the marginally less firm jump in, and then the whole sorry excuse for rigidity that make up everyone else pile in as well. And boy, did they. The floor price on a bag of Loot peaked at over 19 ETH last week when Ethereum itself was nudging $4,000. That's around $76,000 for the floor. But at the other end, people were already starting to decide on the value to them of what they considered the most desirable items. In this case, the divine robe. Apparently in this universe, divine robes, or at least the line of text which says divine robe, that's the Loot equivalent of a goddamn Rolex. And people were spending a fortune on acquiring them. 250 ETH being the highest sale to date. Just think about that, 250 ETH. That was close to $1 million at the time. This, of course, echoes Vitalik's tweet. The value isn't in the primitives, it's in the desire of others to build outwards and upwards from those original seeds. And here, they needed no second invitation. Guilds rapidly formed around rarer items. Developer tooling was built and item trackers deployed. But it was the derivatives that saw the biggest explosion of energy and builder enthusiasm. Now, the intentional simplicity of the original NFTs opened the floodgates for a seemingly endless parade of derivatives to pour oil on the flame. There were characters, there were treasures, islands, realms, maps, adventures, encounters, companions, quests, all rapidly building out the extended universe of Loot, but all in the same stripped down style. Like this name for adventurers that I got. Apparently I am Yuku Zeph Huxley. I kind of like that. Now, if you're lucky enough to own a Loot bag, you can usually mint these derivatives for free. Just pay for gas and you're good to go. And so, out of nowhere, OpenSea was besieged by an onslaught of copycats with zero visual differentiation. And almost all of these suffered the same fate. Behold characters. Pamp to wrecked in record time. But then we started to see more interesting ideas and, whisper it, visual elements, imagine that helped create a differentiating component. They looked different. So innovative, so wild. I just can't get my head around it. There was the Grand Exchange, which is an exchange for items in the Lootverse. There was Loot Character, a PFP generator. There's Loot Mart, which will enable bag owners to unbundle their items and trade them separately. There's even a farm for a magic token if you are brave enough to deposit your loot bag or your treasures or your ends. And trying to keep up with it all is basically exhausting. There's just so much being created, and you keep coming back to the same question over and over and over again.
But why?
Now, the promise here is a game, but there is no game, only items. And does that even matter? Well, of course not, because the games continued, with loot being deemed too expensive for the common man. Dom released synthetic loot, which would allow anyone with an ETH wallet to claim a loot bag, but nobody really cared about that because, no pamp. And then he released M-Loot as an idea, and everybody got peeved about that because it would affect the pamp of loot. And that's when the fun squad came to play with the inevitable parody projects. Pew pew! Pew pew! I am so funny! Pew pew! But hey, listen, if you want to know the real reason loot bag NFTs shot into the stratosphere, it is very, 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 very simple. And it is down to crypto's unique ability to simply create value, and therefore money, out of thin air. Introducing Adventure Gold, ALGD, a brand new governance token, 10,000 of which were claimable by loot holders. And again, let's remember, loot NFTs themselves could be minted for nothing, only gas. And then look what happened. That very same day, both Huobi and OKX announced that they will be listing AGLD for trading. Wow. Adventure Gold, the token, went from an airdrop with a value of strictly 0 to being traded at over $7 a token last Friday. And that would have given everyone who received it in time a $70,000 windfall. That is a very healthy annual salary for a lot of people. Just magicked out of thin air. Now, as you'd expect, many decided to cash out there, the market being home to rational actors as it is. But that didn't stop many exulting in the magnificence of miracle magic money. But of course the question is, why does the project even need a token? If its role is simply governance, then the loot token itself should be all that's required to vote on stuff. And that tension is neatly summed up in this tweet thread from Spencer Noon. And the role of AGLD in governance was actually put to a vote by the loot community. Now, the community themselves narrowly voted in favor of AGLD as a governance token, so it's official now, there it is. But they basically just brute forced it into existence. And it kind of reminds me of a meme in a weird way. It's just so weird. Now, what is astonishing here is not the fact that it happened. Far weirder things have happened in crypto. It's the speed it happened and the level of dialogue from people considered key opinion leaders in the space. Either everyone drank the Kool-Aid, or there is something here, but what that is, we don't quite know. But then this also applies to other weirdly crypto-specific projects of sensational success like Yearn or CryptoPunks or Meme. Somehow, in the great uncertainty of the gaps, the best, most resilient communities form. Ethan from Zora was inspired to create Settlements, a variant on Loot where rarity can be re-rolled a number of times, and that project has already transitioned to a version 2 where resources can be mined in real time. Who knows where that one's going to go, but there's a lot of energy being put into it. Andre Cronje himself was tempted enough to finally open up a Discord for a new Phantom-based project called Rarity, which has seen nearly the same growth trajectory as Loot itself, despite not being based on Ethereum. And if you know Andre, he doesn't like hanging out and talking to people, he just wants to build. But honestly, truly, this space was just waiting for the arrival of one of the greatest, if not the greatest visionaries of the entire NFT space. Sit back, quieten yourselves down, and really absorb what I'm about to tell you. This is someone whose presence, whose very name elicits shivers of anticipation. What will he do next? And we are blessed to bear witness to his genius. He is, as so many have said, the Steve Jobs of non-fungibles. I am, of course, talking about Lord Beanie. The propeller-head prophet of PAMP assumed the role of meme lord-in-chief and issued his own word-based value engine called Bloot. Bloot, whose very name inspires a level of confidence simply lacking from the valueless word-based rip-offs. In a stunning feat of engineering innovation, Beanie did something unthinkable. Unthinkable. How did he get there? He changed the background from black to green. In the process, cementing his reputation as one of the greatest thinkers of our time. Bloot holders were also airdropped a free token. It was free. And again, Beanie's extraordinary gift of seeing what others simply cannot is once again in evidence. He changed the name of the token from A, GLD, one step over, to B, GLD. It is stunning. Now, Beanie's next project is rumored to be a bottled air derivative called Guff, and we can't wait to see that. My love. Now, if there's a common thread in the dialogue around Loot, it's about RPGs, role-playing games, Dungeons and Dragons in particular. This Loot game clearly touches a nerve for those who grew up playing games like this. The pure, simple fact of statistics and rolls, all of that stuff. Combine that with the rapid prototyping hacker mentality of crypto, and it's really not that surprising it blew up the way it did. It's so crypto.
Hey, what do you got there? Show me. Show me. What is it? What is it? What is it? Lettuce? You got lettuce? Are these real? Can you feel it? We can make words with these. I'm like linguistically inside you right now. So jacked. Jacked to the tits!
And it is a strange reminder of just how powerful words can be. Loot is a tool. It's a lot to keep track of, and most people thought YOLO as they aped into it. Now, many got wrecked by the frothy derivatives market. Big names bought big on the originals, but maybe the lesson isn't that people will buy anything. It's that in blockchain, people can build anything. Staring back at you from the great dictionary of the void and sweating profusely into this horrible, horrible suit, this was the Defiant. And now I need some deodorant. Pew pew!
Give me the loot, give me the loot. 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 Big up, stick up, and I'm shooting niggas quick if you hiccup. Don't let me throw my clip up in your back and headpiece, the opposite of peace. Sending more Duke Reef. You're talking to the robbery expert. Step into your wake with your blood or my shirt. Don't be a jerk and get smoked over being resistant. Cause when shots, the shits is persistent. Goodness gracious, the papers. Where the cash at? Where the stash at? Nigga, pass that before you get your grave dug from the main thug. 357 Swift, and my nigga Biggie got an itchy one grip. One in the chamber, 32 in the clip. Motherfucker, yeah, nigga, peel.
Now I need to do a scream.
How blue steel feels.
And that's how it's done.